This is the Better Together podcast. I'm Micah.
And I'm Rochelle.
Here we go.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to the podcast. We are on episode 10.
That's right. We've made it.
This is a little bit of a milestone episode for us. And so we thought it might be fun to talk about what our life kind of really looks like. Just kind of a funny, whimsical peek into the perfectly imperfect world of Micah and Rochelle Kennedy.
Right. So there'd be no meat in this episode.
No,
right?
No, this is just for fun. We hope to make you laugh a lot about how human we are.
Are we?
I think so.
Okay. Very good. Before we begin, though, Rochelle, we do need to make an announcement.
Okay.
I got a fish.
No, he did not get a fish.
I got two fish.
He got two fish.
I got two. For those of you who don't know, there's been a real big problem in the Kennedy household.
If you're here because you're having serious issues in your marriage, I'm sorry for his portrayal of this.
So for the longest time, I mean, it's been over a couple of decades, I've wanted to have a fish in our house. And I got
That's
him.
a blatant lie.
That's true. That's true. But we did. In a couple of the episodes, we talked about how I would have loved to have a fish because we have 2 dogs, 3 kids. Why not have a fish? And Rochelle said no on air. And we got I mean piles of mail in our inbox.
Again, blatant lie.
Okay, good.
We got like 2 comments.
But it was still important to me to tell everyone that we got a fish. In fact, I got 2. I got 2 betta fish. They sit on my desk. 2 males.
Not just the fish. They sit like in a bowl on his desk.
Right. I mean, they're not flopping around, if that's what you mean.
Right. Well, that's kind of the way it sounded.
Oh, that's inhumane. Okay. So, but anyway, I got a red fish and a blue fish, and I'm calling them red fish and blue fish.
That is type A. You could put his picture next to that concept. In
but isn't that
sort of
the
personality
Dr.
dictionary.
Seuss book?
It is.
I don't know how it
That's not
goes.
their names.
No, it is their names.
No, it's not.
Oh. Well, then we'll on a future episode we'll tell you their names. Just wait, okay?
Thank goodness. Thank you for helping me move him past calling them red fish and blue fish.
Well, we haven't gotten that far. All right, so Rochelle, take us on in. Let's begin this one.
Okay, so we live a pretty normal life. At least we think so. But in our early episodes, in the first 2 episodes, we introduced you to us.
Right.
And some of the feedback that we've gotten from friends, family, and strangers is evidently people like us best when we're candid.
Right.
I know I like people best when they're candid. So we thought we would start by sharing some just funny things.
Not always funny, just they were tears.
Yeah. Well, they definitely, most of them weren't funny when they were happening.
Right.
But they're funny now. You know, we've had some ups and downs like any marriage out there. In fact, one thing, I'm going off script here. One thing that comes to mind is
we have no script.
No, yeah, we don't have a script, but we do have an outline. Because we're prepared. So one of the things that I'm thinking about right now is the time that our dog ate people medicine.
Uh-oh.
And we had to take her to the dog hospital because she threw up for a whole day.
Ugh.
Yeah. So that was early in our marriage. Thank goodness we didn't have kids yet. But those are the sorts of things that have happened to us. So anyway, moving on. So we have several stories to share with you, and I'm going to let Micah share the first one.
Right. And then we did try to put a purpose to this beyond just getting to know us. We hope that you'll hear some of these stories, laugh with us, but also, recognize that you're one of God's children as well, and your marriage matters. And if it's not perfect, that's exactly right.
Exactly.
Okay, so my first story is when I wanted to marry Rochelle. She was still in college. In fact, she was a junior, I believe.
No, I was a senior.
She was a senior, everybody, and but she lived in Pennsylvania and I lived in Tennessee. Her parents lived, her mom and stepdad live in Tennessee in the same town as I did, and I decided I better go ask them for their blessing before I go all the way up to Pennsylvania and surprise them as well as Rochelle, asking her for her hand in marriage. And I remember this like it was yesterday, and it was nearly 10 years ago or more. So I went to their house. Of course, she's an only child. Their daughter is several hundreds of miles away, yet this boy comes knocking at their door. Of course, they know exactly what I'm going to do. And I think they've enjoyed it. And I think down the road, I'm going to enjoy this a lot, doing this.
Oh, yeah.
But I went into the house, and her mom is, of course, so sweet. And her stepdad, while he's sweet, he can be a little straightforward.
Yeah.
It's nice.
More type A than Micah.
Right. And so they brought me through the house, and they took me out onto the back porch, and they sat together in 2 plastic chairs and put me across the way in another plastic chair to look at them. And of course, I stutter into what I'm about to say, and immediately I get the death stare from both of them. And all the while, it's about 5 o'clock, 5:30 maybe in the evening. And so then I have to plead my case, it felt like. And all the while, the sun is going down. So by the time we ended this proposal of please give me your blessing, the sun is completely set. And we're in the dark. Nobody went and turned on a light. It's just so awkward. And I remember her mom saying, "Yes, you absolutely can have my blessing." And her stepdad, who I love so much, said, I just can't give it to you. Maybe later. And that's how that kind of ended.
Yeah, it was all awkward. He actually ended up giving me the silent treatment after our proposal for a while.
I did?
No.
Oh, yeah. There we go. That makes sense. I was like, that would be weird.
Yeah, he had a hard time. See, this is real life.
And we got through it, and
yes,
now he's
did.
Wonderful.
Yeah, he was supportive before the wedding.
Sure enough. But... Well, we decided to have the longest engagement ever, so that helped.
That's true.
Okay, so the next one, not really a story as much as a feeling. So when every young bride and husband, they dream of this little honeymoon. Maybe the bride dreams of the wedding, but the husband's excited about the honeymoon. And for me, it was the first time that I'd really gotten away on vacation without my parents. Mm-hmm. So it was way new. And we went to Mexico, which was also odd. I'd never been there in this fashion. And I remember thinking this 7-day honeymoon's going to be so awesome. And we got about a day and a half into this all-inclusive resort, and I was bored to tears. And I remember playing volleyball with a Mexican worker there to just pass the time. And so I bet everybody can relate to some of that.
Yeah, what I remember is thinking, kind of a honeymoon is multi-purposed. One of the things is that you leave and you have this early vacation with your new spouse to celebrate your love and get away together to start your marriage. The other part of it is that you've just been through this like crazy whirlwind, stressful time. And so it's kind of like a getaway. You're going to relax and
right. In our case, our wedding wasn't stressful for me at all.
No.
My job was to plan the music.
True.
And
yeah, that's all he did. Truthfully, it wasn't all that stressful for me either, because I just wanted to get married.
Right.
I didn't really care about the details.
Yeah.
But
it was a good day.
It was. So, but we learned on our honeymoon that our families vacationed really differently.
Oh yeah.
So my family, when we would go on vacation,
Sit like rocks.
yeah, my mom would find a beach chair, take a book, and put up an umbrella, and she didn't move for 7 days.
Yeah, my mom runs like crazy, and I love it.
Yeah, it's exhausting.
It's wonderful.
So we vacation very differently, but we have also learned, at least to some extent, to vacation kind of more in the middle.
Right.
now.
Compromise.
Yeah, we compromise. So on our most recent vacation, I read 3 books and Micah did work.
I did pleasurable work.
It was happy work, but he kept himself busy.
It wasn't spreadsheets.
No, but those would be pleasurable to you.
I don't know about that.
All right, so the next story is mine.
Yeah.
So early in Micah's and my marriage, this is the first argument I remember us having. We just couple of months in, I think, and we were in the middle of dinner and eating in the living room and kind of eating course by course.
Right.
And,
with a butler.
Right. And so I got up, put my bowl in the sink or whatever, and got something else. And a few minutes later, Micah gets up from the couch and goes into the kitchen, and he looks in the sink and he kind of is like, huh. And of course, like, it's like passive aggressive chuckle and stuff. So I look up and I'm, what's wrong? And he says, well, I guess we were just raised differently. What do you mean? And he said, well, I was raised to put my dishes in the dishwasher, but I guess you were raised to put them in the sink. And like, okay. So let's pause this story for just a second to say, yeah, clearly we were raised differently. We were raised by different parents. But the rest of the story is you will see the immaturity of Rochelle early in her marriage. So my response to him was, yes, I was raised to put my dishes in the sink because we didn't have a dishwasher growing up, unless you count me, because I washed the dishes at the end of the meal. And I know that you weren't raised to put your dishes in the dishwasher. I've been to your mother's house. You were raised to leave your dishes at the table and get up, and your mother will clean up after you. Guys, that's not the way to do it. Don't talk like that.
That's not the way it stayed.
No, it's not. I learned to be respectful eventually.
I really meant that we clean up after.
Yeah, now we clean up after ourselves.
We could tell the people the truth now. It's like, I'm not listening to that Micah kid anymore.
No, I said I learned to be respectful.
Well, yeah, very good.
Okay.
So the next one, I really enjoy a lot. Not in the moment. I did enjoy the moment, but Rochelle didn't. And granted, remember, there's not a whole lot of point to this. We're just having fun.
Yeah, laugh with us.
One of the things that never happens when you have your first child is you don't have the baby and then a manual comes out afterwards kind of telling you how this works. And it would have been awesome to kind of have the manual as we're going into the labor and delivery room, but I didn't know what was going to happen. And so there was this, for all the moms out there, they're going, wow, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. But there were several stages of the delivery from what I remember, and I had no idea what that was.
I'm so excited to hear you talk about this.
Sure. And so we were going along, and everything was going smoothly. There were dips and valleys and all of that on the beeping machine that was whatever that's called.
The monitor.
Right. And so everybody was happy. And then all of a sudden, as if a switch was flipped, she just begins throwing up. And I remember she had the largest gas that I'd ever heard. And I remember trying so hard not to laugh, but I was so stupid. And I remember that feeling, don't laugh. And I'm just sitting there laughing while you're having a horrible time.
Giggling like a schoolboy. It was, looking back, it's hilarious. And I did give him permission to tell the story. So if you're a woman and you're like, I can't believe he told that, don't worry, I told him he could. Any of you out there who have experienced childbirth, whether from the perspective of the mother giving birth or the dad in the room or a grandparent or whatever. It's not pretty. Like people really romanticize it, but it's a pretty dirty, ugly thing.
Oh,
and,
yeah. I mean, what I remember too, the moment that the room seemed to be something else when all of a sudden there was this cart in the middle of the room, and the all of a sudden the doctor walks in and she unveils the cart and then gets into what looks like NASA outfits.
Yeah. Micah whispered to me, "Where's mine?" And I'm like in the middle of delivery. But why does she get that suit but no one else does, or something like that?
I know. It was a face guard. It was unbelievable stuff.
So when I deliver babies, I get really nauseous.
Apparently.
And get sick. And so I threw up several times, and I just remember having like this horrible gas, and I'm throwing up, and I'm in the middle of this horrible transition, and Micah is giggling and the doctors and nurses are looking at him like, what the heck is the matter with you? Because he also watched a Mets game on his laptop all day while I was in delivery, and I had to force him out of bed to go to the delivery.
Yeah, but that's for another time.
Yeah. But anyway, so they were looking at him like, what the heck's the matter with you? And the doctor is like stroking my head as I'm throwing up and saying, don't worry, this is really good pushing. It was all just a crazy time.
All right. Well, let's move past that in case people are eating their Wendy's on the road and they've had enough.
Good plan.
The next thing was, and I think new parents can relate to this, but I remember the first 2 days of having our first child felt like an eternity. I'm pretty sure that time ticked by so much slower than normal. So the first 2 days in, after that, we had to go to our first doctor's appointment. And I remember walking in, and they said, all right, put him out on the table and just put him in a clean diaper. And we couldn't see straight. And we were like, do you have the diaper bag? No. Do you have the? No. And so, unfortunately, in that first moment, we forgot the diaper bag on our first trip out.
So Liam at, birth weight was 7 pounds, 9 ounces. And so he's maybe 7 pounds at this point. We had to borrow a diaper from our keep. I mean, they didn't want it back, but from the doctor. And I think he was in like a size 2 diaper. It went all the way up to his armpits.
Right. That's so funny.
It was so embarrassing. And then we got to the car, and I just cried in the car because I felt like he was never going to be a month old. And
right. Which he is now.
Yeah. He just turned 5.
I'll let Rochelle explain the embarrassing moment of this, but tell them about the first time we were going to go on a trip together.
Oh my goodness. Okay. So Micah and I were planning to take a really big trip, like an almost 2-week trip with a 3-month-old baby. We're brilliant, guys. We also, side note here, we also got a puppy when I was like 2 months pregnant with Isley. So we're known for brilliance with small children.
Right.
So we were getting ready to take this long trip, and so we decided to take a mini trip for a weekend to visit his grandparents in Kentucky, to kind of test the waters, see what we needed and what we didn't need and stuff like that. And so we're getting ready to go on our very first overnight with a like 2.5-month-old baby. And I was up all night feeding him because, babies are up all night at 2 months. Up all night feeding him, get up early in the morning to start packing and getting everything sorted. I'm running around. I've been up for like 2 or 3 hours at this point and realized that I haven't heard from Micah yet. So I walk into our bedroom, and Micah is in a t-shirt and underwear lounging across our bed watching a Mets game. We're going to visit his grandparents. Like, this it's not even like me going on a trip, like both of us. Anyway, and tears immediately.
I'll never forget her
spring
face.
to my eyes. And I just looked at him and said, you have got to be kidding me, and stormed out of the room.
And I really did go, what?
Right.
What's the problem?
Yeah. He was like, I don't get it. What's wrong? And
Oh,
so,
younger me.
yeah. So we talked about it, and, in tears, I still remember saying, you haven't even offered to help feed him in the middle of the night one time. And his response to me was, well, Rochelle, I can't breastfeed.
Right.
And my jaw dropped, and I said, he hasn't been breastfed since he was 3 weeks old. He's 2.5 months old.
Sometimes the best excuse you have is the only excuse you have.
And this is kind of one of the things that I do think we want to share is that Micah and I really try to be teachable in our lives. We said this wasn't going to get it meaty at all, but Micah is, when he realizes that he's wrong, he's really quick to admit it. He doesn't hold on to it. He doesn't try to pretend like it's my fault or anything like that. As soon as he realized that he was doing something wrong, he apologized. He asked me to give him a list of what still needed to be done. He got ready really quick and started helping me. And that night, he fed Liam in the middle of the night and let me sleep.
That is smart, gentlemen. Smart. This isn't exactly a story, but it's more the truth of us, and maybe you can relate. I process things. This is unrelated to. We're several years ahead now.
Yeah, this is years down the road.
I process things internally, and then when I speak, it's typically kind of my final decision, ready to be talked about with Rochelle.
Yes.
I learned very early on in our marriage that Rochelle is an external communicator.
As most women are.
Right, and I didn't understand this. So, when I hear her talk about, oh, I'm going to go do this, I think she's going to go do this. I don't think there's any debate needed or talk about it. And I remember that being such an issue with our communication skills early on.
Yeah, Micah would get mad at me for making a big decision without him. And I would be looking at him like, why are you mad? I haven't made any decision. I'm just talking about it.
Yeah, and I didn't understand that.
Yeah.
So I'm not gonna tell this next one. I'm gonna let Rochelle do that.
Oh gosh. Okay. So this was just, I don't know, maybe 3 years ago. It was our anniversary, and at the time, our finances were pretty tight. Not that there haven't been huge seasons in our marriage where finances haven't been tight, which I think is also pretty common.
Right.
So finances were pretty tight. And for weeks leading up to our anniversary, I had said, so are we going to do gifts? Or are we just going to go out to eat? Like, what do you want to do? And Micah had kind of just shrugged it off every time. And so I was like, okay, I guess he doesn't want to do gifts. So our anniversary rolls around, and I don't remember what we did. I don't know if we went out to eat or if we got takeout or if we just kind of shrugged it off. But that afternoon or morning, I don't remember when I think it was the afternoon. Micah comes home from work, I think it was, and gives me my gift. Guys, I had nothing.
Right.
I'd done nothing. I've never seen him so offended. When I thanked him for it, and I said, I didn't get you anything. And his response was, nothing? You didn't do anything? Not even a card? Guess who went shopping the next day?
Didn't count at that point. I remember your mom went, Rochelle, you did nothing?
Yeah, she did. And I was like, guys, I've been trying to ask for weeks, and he wouldn't say anything.
There's some couple going, yeah, we did this.
Oh, right, yeah. There are all couples saying that, I bet. It's probably usually a gender reversal, though.
That's true. Something else we've learned about one another is that when Rochelle gets passionate about things, it sounds aggressive to me. I don't know if you can relate to that. I don't know your wife, your husband. But for me, I always thought it was kind of a northern thing because she's from way up north and I'm from the true South, and so one day I told her that, and it wasn't that long ago. We've been married a long time.
No, we were doing, it's why one of the reasons we recommended in a previous episode, the, for women only and for men only. I was doing that for women only study in my small group, and it clicked. There was a chapter where she talks about that passion and leaning in and the body language associated with that comes across to men as aggressive and like you're picking a fight. And it clicked for me all of a sudden. Oh my goodness. Every time I get passionate about something, Micah will look at me and be like, why are you yelling at me?
Right.
I'm not yelling at you. I'm just passionate about this. Yeah.
Well, it definitely sounds like yelling.
Yeah. And now I get it.
So then tell them about this next one.
Oh, okay. So this is something I think some women will relate to, especially if you stay at home and your husband works outside of the home. Or even, as we're finding out, even if he works inside the home. So sometimes I can get really jealous over Micah's freedom. He has this freedom of movement that is like, that's like a vacation to me.
Explain what you mean.
So I've chosen this job to be a stay-at-home mom. And what that means is that I've basically chosen for the next so many years to be constantly accompanied to the bathroom.
Right. Never have a break.
Never have a break. To eat food cold or hours after everybody else has eaten and things like that. And so when Micah would come home, especially when he was still working outside the home, when he would come home and be like, man, it was such a hard day. There were several times that I can remember looking at him and saying, really? Did your coworkers follow you to the bathroom today?
Which they had.
Did you have a little person pulling up on your legs while you tried to go to the bathroom? Did you eat your food only with one hand? And God really had to correct in my spirit that there are pros and cons to every job, and that if I wanted to have those freedoms, I could easily have them if I decided I wanted to work outside the home. Micah's not chaining me to be a stay-at-home mom. It's what I've chosen. And that part of that is that in this short season, I don't have as much freedom. But it's a short season. And once our kids are old enough to fend for themselves more, then suddenly I'm going to be the one with more freedom.
Right. And that's also not easy for the husband to hear, a lot, because we don't sense the freedom.
Right. Yeah.
But
grass is always greener.
Right. Okay, and our last one, this little section, and then we'll roll on, is I love the moment, because Rochelle she's the talker of the two of us. If we go out on a double date with somebody else, she's going to be the one talking. I'm going to be the one agreeing, because that's smart. But I'm not going to be the one talking. But I remember the moment we were invited to an Easter egg hunt in our neighborhood, which was we lived more in the country at that time, even though it was a neighborhood. And we didn't know all of our neighbors very well, just actually a couple of them. And the ones that we did know declined to go to that Easter egg hunt, but we still decided we got to go. And we did. And I remember the moment of looking at Rochelle like, okay, engage these people because you're the talker. And she didn't at all. And I had to, I've got a little bit of church personality where I have to be on for certain things, and I had to engage that really quickly. And I was surprised by that. But you never know about your spouse in a full party setting.
Where I know nobody. I still remember he had to run to the house to get something. We had forgotten like Liam's Easter basket or something. And he came in and said, all right, so why aren't you? I was standing by myself.
I said, who have you met?
Who have you met? And I said, no one.
I said, who have you met? Go ahead and introduce me.
And, no one. And he laughed. He said, what do you mean no one? I said, nobody talked to me.
So much fun.
He couldn't believe it.
Okay, so our last little section here will go pretty quick.
Yes.
And some of these are just dumb, but these are what we're calling parenting fun. So we've got 3 kids. They're all 5 and under. If you have 6 kids and they range the gamut, you could probably add 1,000 things to this. But these are ours, the few things that we came up with. So truthfully, and we're just being candid, telling
Yeah,
you about
totally
us.
honest
There's
here.
nothing to take away from
Please
this.
don't report us.
Okay, sometimes our kids can go several days without a bath.
That doesn't sound that bad. Sometimes our kids can go a whole week.
But we do count pool time.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah. You know, we're like most parents. If they get in the pool, that's good as a bath.
Right. And we typically start to brush their teeth when we start to smell what I call the skunk tooth,
Yeah.
which Liam really loves, but it's bad breath.
Yeah, they get regular checkups of their teeth, and they're always really impressed with how clean their teeth are. And I'm always like, well, that's good news.
Right.
You know, it's always better on school days and stuff like that. So summer we slack off pretty hard, but yeah.
We might be the only ones. There are days when our two upper kids will basically only eat peanut butter,
Yeah.
and we are okay with it.
Multivitamin.
Does it all, right?
Right.
Makes up the difference.
Yes.
There are times when our middle daughter will get away with things with daddy that she shouldn't.
That's being really, really,
Really
generous. She is wrapped around his finger and she can get away with anything. For example, tonight she fought going to bed really hard and he looked at her on the video monitor and said, "Oh, Rochelle, she's reading a book in bed. At least she's being good."
Right.
And I laughed and said, "But she's not being good. She's not supposed to be reading a book in bed right now." And his response was, "But it's really cute."
It is. You know, the day that one of the things that Rochelle told me going from like day one, like the moment that I met her, she looked at me and said this: "I'm not going to get a minivan." Like, not a hello. Look me straight in the eyes. And I remember the moment that we had 3 kids. One of them was a surprise. There was a lot of things going on.
The third one was a surprise.
Right.
Like, what's that?
One of them, whichever one.
Right.
And but she cried when we got a minivan. I'll never forget that.
Yeah.
And,
The day you brought it home.
But
Tears.
now she's like an evangelist for minivans. Like, we don't get any money from this, but everyone gets the pitch. What an about face. And then the last thing that we'll say in our parenting fun, and this really goes back to the early days, you know, black and white days, is when the pacifier hit the ground.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Just a quick story from Rochelle, and then we'll wind it up.
Okay. So when it was just Liam and we didn't have the other two, I went to lunch with some friends and only one of the girls in the group didn't have kids yet. And Liam's pacifier hit the ground at the restaurant and she picked it up and looked at me with this ultra concerned look and said, "Do you need me to go to the bathroom and wash this for you?" And I laughed, wiped it on my jeans and said no as I plopped it back into his mouth, and she looked horrified. And I said, "The moment that your baby/toddler picks up your shoe and starts to chew on it, you get significantly less concerned about the split second that the pacifier hit the ground in a public place."
Right.
It was like that defined where I was in parenting at that moment.
Right. So the truth of it is that we try to maintain a strong relationship together, and then that, we believe, leads toward healthy and good kids.
Yeah,
you know?
and that our kids, even when it's days before we brush their teeth and the crazy life when they've had nothing but peanut butter for a week and things like that, we've had a ton of fun. We've played outside. We've done all sorts of good. So they're super loved kids, and they know they are.
Pretty early on, and having kids, I bought Rochelle a magnet, and I wrote it down here for you. It says, "Good moms have," and then it says, "messy kitchens, sticky floors, laundry piles, but happy kids."
We legit have all of those things right now. Like I stuck to the kitchen floor tonight.
But I love that. Or Rochelle and I are huge fans of Brian Regan, the comedian, and something that stuck with me for a while. He has a bit about how his kids throw spaghetti on the walls and all of that, and he looks at him and says, don't you know that I care more about the paint on the walls than the joy in your heart? And that is true for us, that we try to enjoy more the joy in our kids' hearts than caring about having the paint on the walls be, messed up.
Yes. And just a side note for anybody who might want to write in, we are still teaching them to value the things that they have. And so while we may let them whip the spaghetti around and put the spaghetti sauce on the walls, we're also teaching them to clean it up when they're done. So.
Very good. Very good. We definitely need some disclaimers. Okay. So to wrap this up, I think I've said that a couple times. God used, the way that we see this is that God used some of the most flawed people to be his messengers. We even call them heroes, but they weren't really going to end up that way without God doing that. For instance, I thought about how Moses stuttered, Elijah ran, that David committed adultery. Paul was agreeing to the murder of innocent people. Peter spoke before he thought. And we put ourselves in that list of flawed messengers. But we know that God uses that above and beyond those who are polished. And so we do believe that we're better together for the kingdom of God because of these shortcomings that we've just listed out and laughed about. Mm-hmm. But it's because we are learning to rely on God and to trust that he brings the increase.
Absolutely.
All right. So a couple things, reminders. We really, really appreciate iTunes reviews. iTunes takes those reviews and then decides whether or not it's going to display our podcast to other people. So if you can at least give us some star reviews, and then if you want to write some, that would be great. It's not easy to get to it, so maybe you could just try and see what happens. Please visit micahandrochelle.com. We just put up a couple of articles today, so there's some new stuff out there. And then help us by sharing this episode and our podcast with your friends, your family. I always say with that one annoying couple that you wish would change. Let this be the catalyst for change in your life.
Yes.
So the other thing, we love to give you a couple of resources, and I'm going to say this word on air and probably blush. You'll see it. But Sex Begins in the Kitchen by Kevin Leman I think that's the title of it. I should have checked that out. I know that's close. But is a really, really good book and works its way around most of the things that we've talked about in this episode. And then the other thing is Micah just put out an Ephesians Bible study on our website that's only going to be available for a little while longer in this way, and it's free on our website right now. It's a 6-day Bible study and commentary that you could use in personal study or also in a small group setting. So go out there and get it. You can download it. You can print it off. You can do whatever you'd like with it while it's out there. But we want to go ahead and make sure you know that's available. So we're going to go ahead and pray together. It's been a lot of fun. Thank you so much for helping us get to 10 episodes. Woohoo! We started with 1 and just keep on rolling. So it's been great. And we've been hearing from people saying, so have you taken that vacation that we spoke about a couple episodes back? And yes, it was glorious.
Yes, it was amazing. And so we are currently collecting donations for our next one.
We are. And that's not a joke. Okay, so let's pray for one another and ourselves, and we'll trust that the Lord will meet us. Lord, we thank you so much for the opportunity that's to be your people, your hands and feet in this world, on this earth, Lord. And we pray that you would help us to know you better. Thank you for how you use flawed messengers to increase, Lord, your kingdom. And I pray that you would meet the needs of your people. Lord, those that are hearing us today that are struggling, Lord, would you give them some stability? And those who are thriving, Lord, give them ways to speak into other marriages, and let's better the kingdom together. And we thank you for the many, many, many opportunities we have when we open our eyes to you. And we welcome you and thank you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
All right. We will see you next week.